There's some strong conference rivalry, partly because I think that if you look, in my opinion, I'm probably a little biased, but I think the strongest golf conference is the Pac-10 currently. Especially, we have 3 schools in the Pac-10 that are ranked in the top 9 in the country currently. So it's pretty deep in the West, and a lot of the top junior players are coming out of the West, even if they're going to a place, let's say like Ricky Fowler at Oklahoma State, who's a top player, top freshman this year. So just as an example, but I think California and West Coast golf is at a place that it's never been before. It's there's a lot of kids playing, there's a lot of quality prospects, and it's at an all-time high. But there definitely is a rival. I think it'd be interesting to see what the guys would say. I feel like as a coach, we definitely get fired up when we compete against Cal, especially this week being the big game week and all of the things that go along with that. I think USC is the other place that really fires the guys up. They don't ever like to get beat by USC, so we pay some extra attention. And then I think too, once you establish yourselves as one of the top programs, which we're hopefully trying to do and kind of continue that, there is a pecking order there amongst the nation's top teams. I mean, the perennial favorites every year are programs like Oklahoma State, and UCLA is very good, and Georgia Tech is very good, in all these places. But the great thing about college golf is that you have upstart teams like UNC Charlotte this year has an awesome team, and they're currently ranked in the top 3. So I think college golf has gotten to the point where there's so much opportunity, and there's so many kids playing that some of the kind of what quote-unquote powerhouses aren't so much anymore, just because of that fact. Kids want an opportunity to play, and the game of college golf is really growing right now.
That's great. I had read one concern that an awful lot of college teams were recruiting foreign players to improve them, and that might actually be hurting U.S. golf because kids weren't getting as much chance. Obviously, that's not necessarily true here at Stanford, but do you see that? Do you see a lot of foreign players coming in?
Yeah, I think there's a big influx, and I think that's just attributed to the growth of the game. I see golf as a worldly game, and Tiger's really changed a lot of that. I mean, Tiger's as popular in China as he is in the United States, and so, I mean, you think about the number of people that are being introduced to the game, especially in some of the foreign countries, and it just makes sense. So I think at the end of the day, the cream rises to the top, and it probably gives the United States and the junior ranks and the junior programs a good lesson in terms of really identifying how good a job they are preparing their kids. It also makes college programs really look at what they're trying to do and figure out, are we shaping it the best way for the kid to achieve what they want to achieve? I think the flaw that I've heard a lot recently is that the college game isn't preparing maybe a player for the next level of the PGA Tour. I think that there's some merit in that, but the thing that they forget is the value of a college education and what that provides, even if you are Tiger Woods or a top player in the PGA Tour, and with the number of players playing, there's no guarantees in this game. It's more competitive than ever to either make a college program, make the PGA Tour, do what you want to do in golf. So why wouldn't you go to a good school with an academic background and have a great degree to use in whatever you do? So, but I think the foreign influx I look upon it as healthy, because there's players coming from every corner of the globe that can compete and know how to play, and it just makes the game more exciting, if you ask me. So.
Right, makes sense. Well, last questions for me, and Bob, I'm sure you've got lots. Just kind of reflecting back, a lot of the research and looking into things I've done is the old players. In the 30s. I mean, when we had guys like Lawson Little were playing at Stanford, and then obviously the teams that won the championships in the late 30s and early 40s. And I'm just wondering if is that something you have, anecdotes, thoughts? Did you hear about that when you were here, or was that remote enough that
Well, no, I think that as my sense is that, and I don't fashion myself to be this, but I think that you see this as a common thing amongst great players, is that they're students of the game, whatever that means. And I think a big part of that is the tradition of the game, and in particular the tradition of the program that they may play for. So, I was definitely plugged into the Lawson Littles and the Charlie Seavers and all the Mr. Tatum, Sandy Tatums of the world when I was a player here, and still am. I think that that's really what makes Stanford so rich in history and gives it the backbone to do what we're doing today. you think about how much impact Stanford golf and Stanford golfers have had on the game. It's pretty amazing. You think, just alone, you think of Grant Spaeth, Sandy Tatum, Tom Watson, and Tiger Woods, and you analyze what those 4 guys have done for the game. I mean, it's pretty shocking. They've really made their mark, and so it's exciting for me as a coach with this idea that maybe I'm coaching the next guy to do that, and can I provide a resource for them to do that? But yeah, it's important too, I think, at Stanford, because you really see guys, if you take a second and look at these guys, or talk to them, spend time talking to Sandy Tatum, you realize that here's a guy that made a conscious decision to go to a place like Stanford when he had a lot of other opportunities out there. And for guys that I coach, that means a lot. Here's a guy that's been really successful and is really respected, and he chose Stanford because of X, Y, Z. And for them to hear that, it means a lot. And I've tried to do my part in bringing that community together. And I think our website that we're working on and pulling all this information that we're trying to pull together is huge in that, because it provides that kind of that look back into what really why we're really all here and what's made it possible. So that's neat.
That's great.
I think even going back, I wish I knew him even in more depth. But the guy that's really impressed me from the beginning, that I've been, since as a player and as a coach, is Tom Watson. I think you trade emails with that guy and you talk to him. His strength of conviction and his confidence is something that I see is something that's very common in amongst our greats. It's that kind of unwavering understanding that what I'm going to do is going to be the best that I can do it, and what I believe in is what I really believe in, and I'll defend what I believe in. And you can see that in Mr. Watson's comments throughout the years, the way he's played golf, the way he's approached things. I love the story, and Sandy Tatum maybe even told the story about Tom Watson, about how they had played 72 holes in the Bing Crosby one day. Did he tell this story? I mean, he might have, but he played 72 holes of rainy golf at Pebble Beach, and it's over the course of a weekend one year in the AT&T, and it's pouring down rain. It's like 45 degrees, and they're driving past the entrance of Cypress, and Tom Watson turned to Sandy Tatum as they're totally waterlogged and said, "How do you feel about a hot shower and 18 more?" And they stopped, and they had a cup of coffee and played 18 holes in a downpour on a Sunday afternoon at like 4:30 in the afternoon. So I hear that story and I'm like, that right there epitomizes, why that guy's great. So I see that as a common thing amongst a lot of our great players. Nota Begay is probably the most confident, confident person in what he does. And if there's a guy that maybe shouldn't be, it's Nota. He's, at the background, the stuff that he's overcome with, growing up on the reservation in Albuquerque, being the first Native American kid to go for 4 years to the Albuquerque Academy, which is a top prep school in Albuquerque, and preparing himself for Stanford, being the first Native American to play full-time on the PGA Tour and win. Here's a guy that's just overcome a lot, and he's broke down a lot of barriers for kids, and he's tried to really give back as a professional, and he did as a college player. I've never seen a guy that can go that low either. I mean, when he got 5 under, it was, how can I get to 10? I want this more than anything right now. Whereas the average college player gets to 5 under and they're thinking, okay, get me to the clubhouse, as quickly as possible. So I just love the way that Nota approaches life and he approaches his golf game, because it's like, life is short, let's get it, let's do it now, let's go after it. And I think to this day he operates that way.